Hey there, Blaise here, and today I just want to talk about indie asset design. Basically, if you're an independent developer, you're probably not working 40 hours a week on your game. You're probably working 30 hours a week, 40, 50, 60, at your job. And your job is probably not game development related. This is because it's seen as an industry that everyone wants to get into. You're not making your dad's spreadsheet. Um, you're not making some sort of boring software thing. You're making games. There's something that people play for enjoyment. So it is a bit of it's an artistic industry. Even on the programming side, it's an artistic industry. My point is that if you're an independent developer, you don't have money backing you probably, and you're probably just funding it yourself. This is most independent developers, I believe, either living in terrible conditions and possibly with their parents. That's not bad, but otherwise just sort of living off of government benefits, for example, and developing, and or they're working working a little bit on games. Now, this means that you probably don't have enough time to really pump out a huge amount of assets. Now, an asset can be anything. It can be a texture, a model, a script, a bit of sound, a bit of music. So there are two things that, as an independent, you can do to try to stretch these assets out, to make the most value out of one asset. If you make a tree, think about where you can reuse that tree. Now, if you just make the bare minimum, see, I've been told before, oh, you only have to make one side of an asset. If you make a rock, are you going to see the underside of that rock? Well, no. So I could save polygons, and therefore I could save memory for a game, if I don't model the under half of that rock. I could also save texture space, all that jazz. However, as an independent, it might not be so great a decision to make a rock that that only is half a rock, because you can't rotate it very much. See, what you could do instead is make a rock that has sort of different sides on it, right? And then you can reuse that same rock, and when you rotate it, it looks like a different rock. So this is a way of stretching your asset value. Per asset, you make an asset that you can just reuse again and again and again and again. If you make a tree that has distinctive silhouettes when you rotate it. Make a tree that goes up and sort of kind of looks like a pick or something, a blacksmith hammer. That sort of shape, like that. That sort of shape. So if you have a tree that has that kind of shape, and then on the other side it has, a strange shape again, then when you rotate it, just on its y-axis alone, it'll look very different. So making unique objects from different angles in 3D is one way of stretching your asset value. Alright, so make full objects that can be used in different ways. Don't skimp out, because if you make an object that's it's just for the purposes of stretching your memory budget, but we indies are probably not making large enough games that use high enough fidelity graphics that we have to worry about that. When you start making 10,000 polygon trees, then you can start worrying about bloody asset management. Option number 2 is make modular assets that can be mixed and matched like a Lego set. What do I mean by this? I have made an object, a ship that is destructible, right? Now, this one ship has a texture in it. I'll just see if I can open it up for you real quick. I'll even just open it up as an image. Just give me a moment. Alrighty, so I've got this ship 1 destructible, right? Now, this center bit is actually like an engine block thing, right? So engines kind of look like that. That's just the cockpit. I could probably add some things in there to make it look like, oh, there's buttons and dials and a thing over there, whatever. That's just like a little sigil. I just mocked it up real quick. That's some decal stuff. That's meant to be parts of the ship that are sort of showing from the inside. Now we just got some metal sort of thing, and it's toned down a bit because when you have it too toned up. This is the black inside of an engine, whatever, right? Now my ship actually looks a bit different in the Blender. For goodness sake, you need to open up Blender, then open it up. So ship 1 destructible. Just open it up. Open it up. Import FBX. Goodness sake. My assets. Models. Ship 1 destructible. Cool beans. So we've got a hull, but we've also got left wing and right wing. Right? So we got 3 objects. Hull, left wing, right wing. Now, left wing is just right wing flipped, of course, However, if we go into our UV mapping, check that out. Now, do you see something about this, right? Yeah, you see that? See that? So, there's some metal. There's like all the metal. There's a little decal bit. There's the engine. There's the black engine bit. There's the black engine bit. There's like some decals. There's just metal. And there's the bit that's showing. If I don't select anything there, it's basically this outside bit looks like it has it, and that inside bit looks like it has it. Right? It looks like it has that engine bit going on. So I don't want to save any changes. So what this looks like in practice is something like this. I might even just rotate this around. Won't save, of course. So yeah, we've got this going. And that's pretty neat. So we've got that sort of strip there, that decal strip. We've got the decal showing on the wings. We've got that bit of exposed stuff on the outside, and because it's destructible, I'll just change that rotation back. Because it's destructible, we can move these off and rotate them and explode them as needed. If we want, we could replace these wings with some other kind of wing. And that's sort of going further still. Is you can actually keep the hull and replace wings. So this is where we're going with this whole modular asset development thing. Now, in addition, I could change this texture pretty easily. I mean, that sigil doesn't have to be that sigil, and the cockpit doesn't have to be like that. The wires could be different, although they'd probably stay the same, let's be honest. But you could change the theme to sort of a red theme. Suddenly you have different assets, different bits of content. It's stretching out the content. I do not want to save that. Now, speaking of content, I've got Rockfighter. And as it just so happens, I recently made some ships, well, I guess 2 ships, and some asteroids. What do we have here? It's a rock fighter, but not as you know it. Of course, doing all this has required a lot of change, but you know, I've had to change a lot of rendering stuff for this all to work, and I've had to change, you know, hitboxes and stuff. You know, it gets a bit strange when you have to rework things because you're changing from 2D to 3D. But yeah, this is how it looks now, and it was really easy to do. Again, I changed up some scripts so that I'm using my Force script because it's easier to do 3D stuff with that. You know, it looks quite nice with these 3D models. I'm sure people will appreciate it when it eventually makes its debut onto the App Store. So yeah, this is a practical example of reusing assets. Now, of course, these are grey, blue, and green. I found that those colors really represent, you know, their difficulty pretty well. They're a bit shiny. I'll have to work on reducing their shine. But yeah, I've got that, and I've got, you know, Never Tell Me the Odds, and they use some of the same assets. This is obviously pigeonholing yourself a bit if you're trying to reuse assets. Alright, the rotation thing is not set up correctly at the moment, so wow! But yeah, you know, you've got these same objects being reused in different ways. The colors look different in the other game. I mean, first of all, this one has a 4th type of asteroid going. They look different in the other one because I've modified the textures. But you know, it was just a hue, saturation, all that jazz. It was very quick, very easy. Anyway, that's basically an example of what you can do when you reuse assets. I'll show you changing wings, changing not just like wings but hulls and all that in the future. I'm looking forward to creating a bunch of content, and at this point it's content that will be able to be distributed across 2 different games. I might even share them a little bit, because a lot of my back-end stuff is all central on my server. So yeah, it'll be very cool to see how this works out, and I'm looking forward to it. Anyway, yeah, that pretty much concludes that one. So try to reuse stuff. Reuse, reduce, recycle. Yeah, that's pretty much it. If you're an indie, don't try to make too much one-use content. Hey took a really long time, and I think one of the lessons we can take away from that is when you make a whole bunch of content for a game, you know, consider where else it can be used. With 2D stuff, it can't really be reused much, but it's easy to get a 2D prototype up and running. If you feel like making lots of content, but making the programming a bit easier, 2D is the way to go, I guess, but I don't have a lot of time, so let's try to keep content easy to make. Anyway, that's me out. Have a good one.